Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So today we are going to study the subsection 12 of the part 3 of the book 4, which we have been studying for last 3 months now, and we are taking quite a lot of time to go through every subsection of the section 3, the Buddhist way of life, because I think that this is so crucial for us to understand what constitutes the Buddhist way of life. That's why we are going with a very slow speed when we are exploring this particular part of the Buddha and his Dhamma. So as we do with this particular section, I'm going to go through a slow reading of the subsection 12, and then I'm going to gloss over some of the very important points of the teachings of the Buddha here. So I begin to read. This subsection number 12 is titled as On Following the Right Way. Choose the right way. Depart not from it. There are many paths. Not all lead to the right way. The right path is for the happiness, not of few, but of all. It must be good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. To follow the right way is to lead the Buddhist way of life. The best way is the Eightfold Way, the best of the truths, the four words, the best of virtues, passionless, the best of men, he who has eyes to see. Please pay attention because every single word matters in the Buddha and Dhamma. And you see how Baba Ambedkar has beautifully taken from different Buddhist scriptures and has put it here. So verse number 6 goes like this. The best way is the Eightfold Way, the best of truths, the four words, the best of virtues, passionlessness, the best of men, he who has eyes to see. This is the way. There is no other that leads to the purifying of intelligence. Go on to this path. Go on to this path. Verse number 8. If you go on this way, you will make an end of pain. The way was preached by me when I had understood the removal of the thorns in the flesh. You yourself must make an effort. The Tathagatas are only preachers. The Tathagatas are only preachers. Verse number 10. All created things perish. All created things perish. He who knows and sees this becomes passive in pain. All forms are unreal. He who knows and sees this becomes passive in pain. Verse number 12. He who does not rouse himself when it is time to rise, who, though young and strong, is full of sloth, whose will and thought are weak, that lazy and idle man never finds the way to knowledge. Watching his speech, well restrained in mind, let a man never commit any wrong with his body. Let a man but keep these three roads of action clear, and he will achieve the way which is taught by the wise. True real knowledge is gotten, through lack of real knowledge is lost. Let a man who knows this double path of gain and loss thus place himself that knowledge may grow. Cut out the love of self like an autumn lotus with thy hand. Cherish the road to peace. Nirvana has been shown by the Sugata. Do not follow the evil law. Do not live in thoughtlessness. Do not follow false doctrine. 17. Rouse yourself. Do not be idle. Follow the law of virtue. The virtuous rest in bliss in this world. 18. He who formerly was reckless and afterwards becomes sober brightens up this world like the moon when freed from clouds. 19. He whose evil deeds are covered by good deeds brightens up this world like the moon when freed from clouds. If a man has transgressed the one law and speaks lies, there is no evil he will not do. Those who are ever watchful, who study day and night, and who strive after nirvana, their passion will come to an end. Now, verse number 22. This is an old saying. They blame him who sits silent. They blame him who speaks much. They also blame him who says little. There is no one on the earth who is not blamed. Verse number 23. There never was, there never will be, nor there now a man who is always blamed or a man who is always praised. 24. Beware of the anger of the tongue. Beautiful. You just if you pay attention to what is written in the Buddha and Dhamma, you begin to see how Baba Ambedkar has presented the teachings of the Buddha so beautifully. Beware of the anger of the tongue and control thy tongue. Leave the sins of the mind and practice virtue with thy mind. 25. 25 is also very beautifully said by the Buddha. Earnestness is the path of nirvana. Thoughtlessness the path of death. Those who are in earnest do not die. Those who are thoughtless are as if dead already. We have seen this verse before. Appamado amata padang pamado machuno padang appamattana miyanti ye pamata yata mata. So you see, in the previous sections, we have seen how Baba Ambedkar has presented the Buddhist way of life, isn't it? But in this section number 12, he says that we have to follow the right way of life. If we do not follow the right way of life, if we do not follow the right way, then it is not going to lead to the cessation of pain. And it's very important that, the trace that Baba Ambedkar has put here is on following the right way. So what is the right way? So succinctly and so clearly enunciated by Baba Ambedkar here, taking verses from Dhamma and all different teachings of the Buddha. Verse number 1, choose the right way, depart not from it. You see, 2 sentences, but so important. Choosing the right way. Even if we choose the right way, it might happen that we might, go here and there. And if we distract from the right way, then, if we depart from the right way, it's not good. So many a times we know that this is the path. We know that Panchashila is the path. We all know that it's the right way. But many a times we depart from it, isn't it? So the most important thing is choosing the right way and, importantly, not departing from it at all. That's very crucial for us to understand, that not to depart from the right way. And as the verse number 2 goes, there are many paths, many paths. If you look at the world, so many teachings have been talked about, so many things have been told, so many teachers have been talking about so many things. But as Baba Ambedkar says, not all lead to the right way. So there are many paths in the world, but they not necessarily lead to the right way. So what is the right way? See, this is the genius of Baba Ambedkar. When he says something, he goes on explaining, what is it? He defines the terms for us. He makes it clear for us. So you see what he makes out of it. The verse number 3. The right way is for the happiness not of the few, but of all. So you see, this simple criteria to know what is the right way is so beautifully qualified by Baba Ambedkar here, is that the right way will always lead to the happiness of all. It is not for the happiness of the few, but of the happiness of all. And this is very important, of all. The word here is of all, isn't it? So whatever way we practice, whatever, the teachings of the Buddha we take into consideration or try to put in our life, the Buddhist way of life constitute in ensuring that whatever we are practicing is leading to the happiness of not the few, but of all. Now, this is a very profound sentence in itself when we are talking about the love, the welfare of all, happiness of all. So, verse number 4, it must be good at the beginning. You see, the right way has to be good at the beginning. The right way has to be good in the middle. The right way has to be good at the end. Isn't it? So we cannot say that, the way is now bad and it will improve in the future. Isn't it? It's bad in the beginning, but good in the end. No. Isn't it? So actually, Baba Sahib Ambedkar is defined what is the Buddhist way of life in these two verses. It must be good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Adi Kalyanam, Madhya Kalyanam, and Anta Kalyanam. This is how the Buddha defined his Dhamma. That it leads to the welfare in the beginning, it leads to the welfare in the middle, and it's good, it's Kalyan at the end. So I think these three words are very important, that the way must be good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. To follow the right way is to lead the Buddhist way of life. You see these 5 verses, if we read together, we begin to see what is the right way and what is the Buddhist way of life. So what is the right way? Right way is for the happiness not of the few, but of all. It must be good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Isn't it? This is what the Buddha says, that what is my Dhamma? Bhujan Hitaya, Bhujan Sukhaya. And it's good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end. Isn't it? So this way of presenting the Buddha's teachings, making it practical in our day-to-day life, it's a genius of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Isn't it? Even if we forget everything, and if we remember these 2 verses, the right path is for the happiness not of the few, but of all. It must be good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. That is it. Isn't it? To follow the right way is to lead the Buddhist way of life. And the verse number 6 summarizes. How does it summarize? The best way is the eightfold way. So if we have been asked what is the best way, the answer is very simple. The best way in the world is the eightfold way, means the noble eightfold path. The best of the truths, the 4 words. The 4 words are the best of the truth. What are the 4 words? Dukkha, Dukkha Samudaya, Dukkha Nirodha Gamini Patipada. 4 words, best in the world. The Buddha says, my teaching is only 2 words. Dukkha and Dukkha Nirodha. Dukkha and Nibbana. That's it. I teach only 2 things. I teach how to understand the Dukkha, how to understand the cause of the Dukkha, the way to the end of the Dukkha, and way to the end of the Dukkha. That's it. 4 words. The best of virtues, passionlessness, not getting attached to anything, complete detachment to the sensual world, complete detachment to the world that has been produced by our senses. In other words, being passionless, the best of the virtue. What is the best of the virtue? Is to let go. Isn't it? Is not holding on to anything. Isn't it? In other words, to have that freedom of mind, to have that, not confining the mind to any area, any person, any thought, any ideology. In other words, is to make our minds free. And the best of men, he who has eyes to see. So he is the best man, whose eyes of wisdom have opened. Isn't it? They can see, they have the eyes to see. They can see the way it is, the way the Buddha sees with his eye of the Buddha. And the verse number goes like this, 7. This is the way, there is no other that leads to the purifying of intelligence. Go on this path. So you see, the language here is that the Buddha is as if talking to us. What if you imagine the Buddha talking to us like this? The Buddha says, this is the way. There is no other that leads to the purifying of intelligence. Isn't it? There is no other way that leads to the Sammaditthi. This is the only way. And what does the Buddha say? Go on this path. The Buddha says, go on this path, walk on this path. In other words, the Buddha is encouraging us to walk on this path. And what does the Buddha say further? If you go on this way, If you follow this way, if you walk on this way, you will make an end of pain. The way was preached by me when I had understood the removal of the thorns in the flesh. So I teach the way to the end of suffering, isn't it? Very, very beautiful, very, very deep, and yet very, very accessible and practicable, isn't it? If you go on this way, the Buddha is saying that, you don't have to believe me, you don't have to trust me, follow the way, go on the way, you will make an end of pain. This is the assurance of the Buddha. This is the guarantee of the Buddha. This is the faith we can have in the Buddha, that if we can walk on this way, we will make an end of pain. The way was preached by me. The Buddha says, the way was preached by me when I had understood the removal of the thorn in the flesh. I have understood how to remove the pain. I have understood how to remove the suffering. And therefore, this is very important to understand that, the way was preached by me, and when I had understood the removal of the thorn in the flesh. The verse number 9 goes like this: you yourself must make an effort. The Tathagatas are only preachers. So the responsibility to walk on the way lies not on the Tathagata, because Tathagata has taught the way. He is encouraging us to walk on the path, but for that, the Buddha says, you yourself must make an effort. Isn't it? In other words, the Buddhism is a path of efforts, is the path of energy, is the path of taking the responsibility onto ourselves. Who are the Tathagatas? The Tathagatas are only preachers. They are Margadata. They give the marga. They don't give the moksha. They indicate the way to the moksha. They indicate the way to the freedom. But by themselves, they don't give freedom. So you see, the gradual way, the way systematically the teachings are arranged in this section are very important for all of us to understand. And that takes us to the verse number 10, which is a very famous Buddha's teachings, the heart of the Buddha's teaching, which is very beautifully put up here. All created things perish. Whatever is created in the world is going to perish. Whatever is created, this word we have to underline and write it all the time. All created things perish, isn't it? But it is not enough. He who knows and sees this becomes passive in pain. So you see, this sentence is very, very, very deep, isn't it? Because we hold on to thinking that they are not going to perish, we suffer. We attach ourselves to those things because we think that the things are never going to perish. We are going to remain what we are. We are going to remain young. We are going to remain healthy. This is what we think all the time. But it is not so. The reality of the things is that all created things perish. He who knows and sees, not only knowing, but seeing it. In other words, vipassana, seeing, the word for seeing in the word is to see. Vipassana sees this becomes passive in pain. There is no pain for the person who has understood these teachings, that all, and this is not a teaching, this is the reality of the world. All created things perish. He who knows and sees this becomes passive in pain. So very important for us to understand this very important sentence. Very, very important. The 11th sentence is also important. All forms are unreal. So whatever forms we see in the world, whatever we experience in the world, whatever we hear in the world, are all unreal. He who knows and sees this becomes passive in pain. The verse number 10 and verse number 11 summarizes the essential nature of the world. He who does not rouse himself when it is time to rise. So when it is time to rise, we should rouse ourselves. Who, though young and strong, is full of sloth, whose will and thought are weak, that lazy and idle man never finds the way to knowledge. Isn't it? So you see, the verse number 12 goes like this: he who does not rouse himself when it is time to rise, who, though young and strong, is full of sloth, whose will and thought are weak, that lazy and idle man never finds the way to knowledge. Watching his speech. Now, what is the path? How do we How do we, walk on the path? You see the way, the path, the marga. It's very beautifully explained here. Watching his speech. So, we have to watch our speech. Well restrained in mind, we have to restrain our minds. Let a man never commit any wrong with his body, means 5 precepts, isn't it? So we have to be aware of the 5 precepts all the time in our life. Let a man but keep these 3 roads of action clear. You see, this is so clearly taught by, the Buddha, and so beautifully presented by Baba Ambedkar. Let a man but keep these 3 roads of action clear. These 3 roads of action should be clean. The road of, working with the speech, the mind, and the body. This road of action. We do action through these 3 roads. Kaya, Vacha, Mana, as we call traditionally. They should be clear. Let a man but keep these 3 roads of action clear, and he will achieve the way which is taught by the wise. Guaranteed. Isn't it? If we follow this path, these 3 roads of action clear, if we keep these 3 roads of action clear, definitely we are going to achieve the way. We will reach our destination for sure. This is the guarantee of the Buddha. Through real, knowledge is gotten. Through lack of real, knowledge is lost. Isn't it? So through real, knowledge is gotten. So if we follow the real way, very important. If you want to have the knowledge, if you want to have the understanding of the Buddha, we have to follow these 3 roads of action. Through real, knowledge is gotten. So if we walk on the right way, real way, we will get the pradnya or knowledge. Very clear. Through lack of real, knowledge is lost. Let a man who knows this double path of gain and loss thus place himself that knowledge may grow. You see? So there is a connection between pradnya and shil. Direct connection between pradnya and shil. So if we keep the purity of the precepts, if we keep the mindfulness of the precepts, if we follow the precepts, the pradnya will grow. There will be a real pradnya. But if we do not follow the precepts, there will not be real gain, real knowledge. Knowledge is lost. So for the first time, when you read these sentences like this, that the Shila has a direct correlation with pradnya, isn't it? You begin to understand how if we have to enlighten, it's not just about talking, it's just not about reading, it's about following, it's about walking on the path of this threefold path, the 3 roads of action. We have to make it clear, keep it clear all the time, isn't it? So beautifully explained by Baba Ambedkar. And if we do it, then the knowledge will increase. We will attain the knowledge of the Buddha. We'll attain the knowledge of the Dhamma. Then only it is possible. And if we do not do it, the real knowledge is lost. Let a man who knows this double path of gain and loss thus place himself that knowledge may grow. So where do we place ourselves so that our knowledge will grow? We put ourselves on the path of the precepts, on the purification of the body, speech, and mind. And the 15th is ultimate. Cut out the love of self. We love ourselves so much that we cherish ourselves so much. We are the center of everything. Everything that we experience in the world is colored by our sense of love of self, isn't it? We can see this all the time. We are at the center of everything, isn't it? So what the Buddha taught? Cut out the love of self. And how do you do that? Like an autumn lotus with thy hand. Nobody is going to cut our ego. Nobody is going to destroy our ego. We have to do it ourselves. Cherish the road of peace. So this is the road of peace. Following the threefold road of action is the road of peace. So if we want to have peace, experience the peace in our life, everybody wants peace in their life. How do they get the peace in their life? By following the precepts. of body, mind, and speech by walking on that threefold path. Cherish the road of peace. Nirvana has been shown by the Sugata. Isn't it? That's how the Nirvana we can see. Isn't it? That's the way to see the Nirvana. Do not follow the evil law. Do not live on in thoughtlessness. Do not follow false doctrine. The Buddha, as if he's speaking to us directly, he's saying, do not follow the evil law. Do not live on in thoughtlessness. Do not follow false doctrine. But we our minds are so weak that we follow the evil law. We live completely thoughtlessly, and we do not follow the real doctrine. What is the real doctrine? Is the purification of the body, mind, and speech. That is the real doctrine, isn't it? So the Buddha says, rouse thyself. Rouse thyself. Do not be idle. Follow the law of virtue. The virtuous rest in bliss in this world. So if we want to have bliss in the world, the only road there is to follow the virtues. So virtuous rest in bliss in this world. 18. He who formerly was reckless and afterwards becomes sober brightens up this world like the moon when freed from clouds. Isn't it? So you imagine a night when there is a full moon and there are no clouds. So that moon brightens the world. Just like that, if formerly we were reckless and afterwards become sober, we brighten up the world like the moon when freed from clouds. He whose evil deeds are covered by good deeds brightens up this world like the moon when freed from clouds. Isn't it? So it is not that the Buddha is not saying that we are basically pure or like that, but we can do good deeds, we can do good work, good actions by body, speech, and mind, and whatever evil deeds we have had, they are covered, they are removed, and we again brighten up this world. So as we have seen previously in the Buddha and his Dhamma, as Baba Ambedkar says, there is a hope in every moment in Buddhism. There is that freedom to choose what we want to be. Isn't it? Nothing is lost. Isn't it? Even if we are the worst kind of people in the world, there is a hope for us. Isn't it? So if we do the good deeds, the evil deeds are covered. If a man has transgressed the one law and speaks lies, there is no evil he will not do. Very important. Isn't it? See, there is one law if we transgress. What is that one law? Speaking lies. Isn't it? In other words, claiming what is not there, and we do it all the time. We are lying all the time with ourselves, with people around us, with the society. We are lying all the time because we want to protect something. We want to protect our sense of self, our sense of ego, isn't it? So as it goes, we are lying all the time. And that one law, you see this lying, if we begin to see in the last section that we have studied, that Baba Ambedkar has talked about hypocrisy, trying to pose what we are not, and the Buddha was someone who did what he spoke, and he spoke what he did, isn't it? And here in this section, Baba Ambedkar has put this verse number 20 very beautifully at an apt moment to say that if a man has transgressed the one law and speaks lies, there is no evil he will not do. So a liar will always do an evil, isn't it? Because they have something to hide, isn't it? So you see, the speaking lies is so, put up centrally here. Those who are ever watchful, who study day and night, and who strive after nirvana, their passions will come to an end. So you see, the passions are not going to come to an end just like that. We are not going to become detached just like that. We are not going to attain the peace of nibbana just like that. What we have to do? We have to be ever watchful. We have to watch our action. We have to watch our speech. We have to watch our our body, our mind in the context of the 5 precepts. And when we do that, what happens? Our passions will come to an end. Those who are ever watchful, who study day and night, and who strive after nirvana, their passions will come to an end. And the verse number 22 goes like this: because we get swayed by the opinions of others, we are moved by the opinions of others or by the praise of others all the time. This is a human tendency. If somebody praises us, we feel we get carried away. If somebody speaks badly about us, blame us, we want to push that thing away. So you see, this is an old saying: they blame him who sits silent, they blame him who speaks much, they also blame him who says little. So if you speak more, people will blame you. If we are silent, the people will blame us. If we speak little, then also people will blame us. There is no one on earth who is not blamed. There is no one on the earth who is not blamed. Everybody is blamed. There never was, there never will be, nor is there now. Not in the past, not in the present, nor in the future. There will not be a man who is always blamed or a man who is always praised. So in other words, this is the law of the world, loka sabhav. So what do we do? Because people are going to blame us, people are going to praise us. So what do we do? In our thing, what do we do? Beware of the anger of the tongue. We have to be aware of the anger of the tongue. Very beautiful, anger of the tongue. Because we express our anger through our tongue. Isn't it? We express our anger through our body. We express our anger through our minds. But mind is very subtle. When the body expresses it, becomes very gross. But this anger expressed to the tongue, we have to be very much aware of the anger expressed through tongue. And control thy tongue. That is what the Buddha says. Control this instrument in your mouth. Control thy tongue. Leave the sins of the mind and practice virtue with thy mind. We have to practice virtues by our mind, in our thoughts, in our moment-to-moment consciousness. We have to practice virtue. Isn't it? You see, the whole path, Shil, Samadhi, and Pradnya, has been covered here so beautifully, so clearly, so succinctly, so practically. The right way. What is the right way? Very simple. It leads to the welfare of all, not to the few. And it's good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the end. That is the right way. Then what is the right way? What is the best way? Isn't it eightfold way? What are the best of the truths? 4 words. 4 noble truths. The best of virtues, 1 word, passionlessness. The best of the men who can see. Clear, succinctly clear. There is no other way. This is the only way. And the Buddha says, I have experienced it. I can guarantee you, if you walk on this path, the threefold path, that you keep clear, you keep your body clear, if you keep your mind clear, if you keep your speech clear, definitely you will have the knowledge. If you do not do this, your knowledge will not be there. Your knowledge will be gone if you do not practice this way. Isn't it? So, and cut the love for yourself and cherish the road of peace. So you see, this is very beautifully, presented here by Baba Ambedkar. The more we read, the more we begin to understand it very clearly, isn't it? Very, very clearly. So in other words, we don't have to get swayed by the blames and the praise that we encounter in the world all the time. All the people encounter that in the world. There is no exception to this law. So beware of the anger of the tongue, because people are going to blame you. People are going to talk bad about you. People are going to, sometimes stab you behind, isn't it? These things are going to happen. That doesn't mean that we have to be, we have to express that to the anger of tongue. So beware of the anger of the tongue and control thy tongue. Very important. Control thy tongue. Because once something is escaped through your mouth, it's very difficult to take back. Isn't it? So that's why Buddha says, be careful with your speech. Isn't it? Beware of the anger of the tongue and control thy tongue. Leave the sins of the mind and practice virtue with thy mind. How do we practice Shila? With the mind. Isn't it? All the time we think about virtue when we act, when we speak, when we think. We think with virtues in our mind. And the verse number 25, we have seen it before also, and we are going to see it here also. Earnestness is the path of nirvana. In other words, apramad, striving, continuous striving is the path of nirvana. Rouse yourself. Thoughtlessness, the path of death. If we do not rouse ourselves, we are lazy and slothful. That is the sure way path to the death. Those who are in earnest do not die. Those who are thoughtless are as if dead already. So see, I will say that if we begin to look at the way Baba Sahib Ambedkar has presented in this particular subsection 12 on following the right way, we begin to see this very beautiful quality of clarity dawning on us. Isn't it? We talk about pradnya, and most of the times we talk about wisdom in terms of reading, in terms of knowing. But here the knowledge is taught in terms of the practice of the threefold purification. So directly correlating Shila with knowledge. Isn't it? This is a very, very profound if we see what the Buddha is teaching here. So if you want to have that clear mind, the clarity of mind, we have to clarify our thoughts. We have to clarify our speech. If we want to use the word purify, we can say that we have to purify body, mind, and speech. We have to be righteousness. We have to have that virtuousness, isn't it? And we do not have to get swayed by the worldly forces of praise and blame, because this is going to happen all the time, isn't it? In other words, we never have to express anger through our tongue. We have to control our tongue, and we have to practice Shila with our mind. Very profound, very practical, and a straight path that will lead to the happiness and bliss. In other words, that will lead to the nirvana. And I think this is what is the beauty of the Buddha and Dhamma, isn't it? If we begin to understand the Buddha and Dhamma through our reading, through our understanding, through our discussion, we begin to see that how profound, how clear, how practical, how down to earth, almost on the ground, which is accessible to us, is the Buddha's Dhamma presented by Baba Sahib Ambedkar so nicely, without confusion. Isn't it? So I will stop here, and I will open up the class for any comments or any discussion that any of you would like to share in the class.
Verse number 3, the right path is for the happiness not of the few, but of all.
Yes.
Means I think it teaches equality, because in other Hinduism, Brahmins, they only enjoy the superiority, maintain superiority and enjoy everything.
Yes.
But following Buddhist way,
yes,
it is happiness for all and not for few.
True. Very, very true. Very, very true. So you see, most of the times, why this reading is important, because most of the times the Buddhism is just confined to your mind. And the social aspect of the Buddhism is not touched at all. Everything is blamed on the person, and the perfection, personal perfection. But as the Buddha says, that if we are only working for your advancement, we are not going to following the right way. The right way is to follow the Dhamma in a way that will benefit us and others. Isn't it so profound? That's why the purification, the Shila, are related to other people, other human beings. Isn't it? If you are a single person living somewhere, you might not need it. You might never need it, but if you are in relationship with other human being of any sort, you need it, right? So you see, this is the way. The right way is not just for a few people, it's for all. That's why the Buddhism is a universal teaching, isn't it? It's applicable everywhere, anywhere you go. And in any situation, the Buddhism is applicable because, in every situation, wherever we are interacting with human beings all the time. So when we are interacting with human beings all the time, what is the basis of that? How do we ensure that, we create peace in that situation? So the only way to create peace and that in that situation is by practicing the five precepts through our mind. And when we have this, the five precepts in our mind, we have that clarity, the knowledge, the prajna. So prajna is not something abstract. It is grounded in Shila. So the awareness of the shield that we saw last time, Shilanusati, is very important.
Unless we follow Shila, we cannot move forward, because it is the base morality, Shila morality, the base of everything.
Yes.
Without that, you cannot
Yes.
this passion, remove passions.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So, you cannot have samadhi if you are indulging precepts.
Yes. Yes. So you see, you're right, 100% right. And after having the discussion, Baba Sahib Ambedkar comes up with point number 15, verse number 15. Cut out the love of self. So sometimes we practice goodness for the sake of self, because we want to be good in the eyes of others. We want to be better than others. We have to be higher than others. We want to claim that so-called moral supremacy over others. If we do that, there will be no peace, because we are just trying to talk about, trying to putting ourselves above others, or in a special category, that I am special, I follow this. Isn't it? Just like, some people claim that, they are vegetarian, so they are better than other people. Isn't it? Because they go to, certain places, they are better than other people. Isn't it? So you see, we have to see this very, very, very comprehensively, this whole structure. Isn't it? So we have to follow the precepts so that our knowledge will gain. But if we are following precepts and, feeling ourselves better than other people, superior than other people, it's never going to lead to peace.
Verse number 10 teaches impermanence. All created things perish. He who knows and sees this big man, he becomes passive in pain. He has no sense. Which things which arise are created, they are going to perish.
Yes, anything created is going to perish. Anything. There is no exception to this rule, because in the creation lies the perishment.
Yeah, because of impermanence.
Yes, that you call impermanence, because nothing is going to remain as it is. Anitya, not always so.
Anika.
Anitya.
So most of the verses also reflects Dhampada.
Yes.
Just like those with initiative, mindful, clean in action, acting with the due consideration, heedful, restrained, living the Dhamma, their glory grows.
Yes.
And in very simple way, it has said through initiative and heedfulness, restraint, and self-control, the wise would make an island no flood can submerge.
Yeah.
This whole chapter can be summarized or like this also, sir.
Yeah. You might have noticed that, I have taken almost 3 months to finish this part of the Buddhism. It's even not, it's the part 3 of the book 4. It's so important for us to understand, what is the Buddhist way of life. And
yes, drop by drop, our vessel is filling up.
Yes. Drop by drop. That's very important. Drop by drop. The vessel is going to fill up. There is no question about that. The more we read Buddhism, the more we practice the Dhamma, the more our knowledge is going to grow.
True, sir.
That is the assurance of the Buddha. That is the guarantee of the Buddha.
Yes. And this is the beauty.
This is the beauty of the Buddha.
Beauty of living the way of life.
Yes.
This chapter is based on Shil Samadhi Prajna.
Everything boils down to Shil Samadhi Pradnya, but people don't know the connection between that. If you read it carefully, you can see the clear connection between Shil and Pradnya.
If you don't practice Shil, then you cannot practice Samadhi, Samma Samadhi. And if you don't practice Samma Samadhi, then you don't attain Prajna, you don't get Prajna, wisdom.
Yes.
Purifying of intelligence, verse number 7.
Yeah, and then again you come back to the Shila.
Yeah.
So it's a cyclic. It's not, you come up with a better human being. Then again, if you practice the Shila, your Samadhi is good. When your Samadhi is good, the more knowledge you have. Then again, you come back to your conduct increases. So it's not that, it's one-time process. We have to repeat it all the time in our life. So it's not like step 1, step 2, step 3. The whole path is integrated. Shila cannot be separated from Samadhi. Samadhi cannot be separated from Pradnya. Pradnya cannot be separated from Shil. It's a total integrated path.
Yeah.
This verse number 3.
Verse number 3.
It is happiness not of few, but of all. So can we say this is saying like Sarvajan Hitai, Sarvajan Sukhai?
Yes, we can say that.
And not the Bahujan Hitai, Bahujan Sukhai.
Bahujan word means actually many, 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 countless. Bahu, bahu, bahu. We cannot say it Alpajan or, Bahujan. Bahujan implies that, innumerable beings. Infinite number of people. Bahu, bahu.
But all means it includes everybody.
Yes,
so
we can say all also. You can say Sarva also, no problem. Sabbe.
Sarvajan.
There is a word.
Which one is correct then? Bahujan is correct or Sarvajan is correct?
See, Bahujan is practically correct in the sense that, you cannot count the people because there are always so many people. So I think Bahu and Sarva has the same connotation.
But when that Bahen Mayavati ji said she shifted from Bahujan to Sarvajan, they are our own people are criticizing.
Right. No, that, politically it might be a different thing because we are talking in a different context. We are not talking in a political thought, but in a political thought, if we have to construe or understand Buddhist political thought, we might have to, analyze it differently. You see, here we are talking in the context, not political context. We are talking in the context of nirvana, of happiness for all, isn't it? So when we're talking about ideological things like, us versus them, that's how the politics is all about. In politics, you have to have something about some concerns about some interest of the group, isn't it? So there, the way of putting the things might be different than putting the things here.
Sabbe Satta.
Sabbe Satta, all beings, infinite, countless beings. Bahu means countless.
It is in our back of the mind that Bahu means only the Bahujan and excluding the Brahmins.
The word means countless. A few people can be counted, but Bahujan cannot be counted. Bahu, countless beings, countless human beings. So, anything else? Anybody would like to say anything? Arvind sir, Vidyanand, Dhananjay, Rahul, Sanjay. If there is nothing on your mind, then we will end the class here and we will meet next week and we will finish this part of the Buddhist Dhamma. So hope you continue to read the Buddhist Dhamma. You have your own copy and read it whenever possible, maybe every day some part of it, so that we have more clarity about what is the right way. So with this, I conclude the class and see you next week.
Thank you.
Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim.
Thank you. Jai Bhim. Jai Bhim to all.
Jai Bhim to all.
Jai Bhim.